Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Zoom at 8. My name is Julianne Peterson, and I welcome you all to tonight's meeting where we get to listen to a speaker, and then we have networking. So don't miss out. Stay, listen, learn, and then network. So I work for Old Capital Lending. I am a senior director at Old Capital, and we are a premier provider of debt, not only for multifamily, but for other asset classes. So don't forget, we can do bridge, we can do bank, and we can do CMBS, but the largest amount of our business is done in agency debt. What does that mean? What is agency? That's Fannie and Freddie. That's non-recourse. You get to sign a new loan every single day of the week. Whereas with bank financing, you can only have a limit and it restricts your buying power. So Old Capital's been in business. We do $1 billion a year, and there's only 8 or 10 of us. So when you work with Old Capital, we not only can close, but we are different than most of the mortgage lenders out there because we will help you bring limited partners, sponsors, attorneys, insurance companies. So we're a little bit different, and we hope that you recognize how we educate people and bring them alongside to become somebody that you know, like, and trust. So tonight, we are excited about our guest, and we are getting ready to learn from Derek tonight. He has over 19 years of multifaceted real estate experience. He has a real estate transaction totaling more than $33 million and a personal portfolio comprised of real estate valued at approximately $27 million. He has a BS in biological sciences, a minor in business administration from Louisiana State University. Do we have anybody else in the house from LSU? Can we get a hip hip parade? Oh, sounds like we've got some crickets. We need to work on that. He has an MBA from the University. Oh, there we go. Hip hip hooray. MBA from University of Louisiana and a licensed commercial and residential general contractor. This guy has a multitude of talents that I'm so excited. Derek Alexandrenko, I am just so excited to have you here because when I heard what you are involved with, I just thought, you know what, you are doing something that I've heard Real Pages, Greg Willett, and I've heard Neil Bawa talk about this new kind of asset class. And I think that everybody's chasing after multifamily. Let's face it, right? Everybody's trying to fit it in the box so that we can have returns, to have the IRRs, that they all fit. But Alex is doing something very, very different and very special. And I think that it would be worth your time and energy, and think about the questions that you have for him, because he is involved with BTR, Build to Rent. And I have been involved with a deal that is in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And they brought me the opportunity. They are building these tranches of little bits of houses in tranches. So maybe they build 5 and then they build another 5 and 5, and then they're renting them out. And that's exactly what Derek is involved with. It's a growing niche of single families. These are rentals, and we call it kind of a hybrid mix where they're building ground up construction, and then like multifamily, they're renting them out. And so it can be a combination of multifamily and single family all in one. We've got attached or detached garages. They've got their own driveways. I mean, it is hitting a lot of boxes for our affordable housing. A lot of people want to feel like they own their own home, yet they don't have that down payment. So, you know, this is hitting some of this affordable housing. We've got a shortage, and Derek is really taking a look at this and really getting involved. So Derek, hi, Derek.
Hi, how you doing? I actually had to pivot right here. My computer cord is broken, so that's why I'm showing up in 2 screens.
Hey, well,
I'm ready for the other one to die out.
2 is better than 1, so we'll take you both of them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So if you could tell us, first of all, how did you come to being a contractor, you've got a business degree, a biology degree. What brings you to commercial? You've done some single families. Tell us kind of your journey.
I started out in real estate in college. My freshman year, I always had an affinity for real estate from in high school. In my bedroom late at night doing push-ups and stuff for the football team. Carlton Sheets was on late at night. I don't know if y'all remember those old infomercials. And it got me thinking about there has to be something to owning real estate. I never bought the CDs or any of that, but so I knew when I went to college I wanted to buy something. But I had to get a job. So I got a job at Home Depot my first semester and then decided where I wanted to buy and bought that first house, end of my first semester there. And that was 20 years ago when it was a lot easier to get a loan. I was making about $7 an hour and I was able to get a loan without a cosigner. And, I kept on doing that since that time. So
let me just make sure I understand that. $7 an hour and you were able to buy a house.
It wasn't a very expensive house, and I had to fix it up. But yeah, I bought a house without a cosigner.
That is truly amazing.
Yeah.
I'm in California. You can understand that, $500 a door is, you can't do that on $7 an hour. So that blows my mind. That is amazing. Yeah. So you got that one house. You were in college. You got the $7 an hour. Tell me the next steps to how you get to $27 million in real estate. I know there's a couple of probably steps.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, by the time I graduated, I had 3 houses on that same street, and I bought a 27 unit the year I graduated, also in Baton Rouge. That was definitely a learning experience because I didn't have the cash reserves. I didn't have the underwriting experience. And this was about 2005. So what was coming up, but I was still working at the Home Depot. So I didn't, when those payments came due, $5,000, $6,000 a month, they were calling me. And my salary at Home Depot definitely couldn't pay it. So it got to be pretty scary. It was definitely forged through fire, but I ended up selling it to someone in Las Vegas before the crash, and I did well. So, but it was a learning experience, and I had, again, no partners, no mentors. So learned a lot, but through that I kept on doing real estate, but that scared me away from multifamily for a long time. So I went back and I just kept on doing single family. I built my own house. And over the years I kept on doing the flips. I've done mostly remodels. I've always had an affinity for keeping properties, as opposed to selling them for income. So I built them up to about 50 single family houses. And along the way, I guess about 7 or 8 years ago, I was like, well, it's might be easier for me just to get licensed and start doing this from scratch, because there's kind of, slim pickings, for, good remodel projects. And then you never know exactly what you're going to get into. And so that's what I started to do. I started to, I became licensed and started to build them from the ground up, just single family houses. And from there, I started doing 2 or 3 at a time, and then just kept on adding to it, multiplying it from there.
Amazing. So did you ever get back into then multifamily?
Just this last year, as far as large multifamily, and now we've put together a fund for building entire communities, and that's what you're talking about. It's going to be one ownership structure, so it'll be treated like a multifamily, managed like a multifamily, but we have the benefit of having few exit points. If we need to sell them off individually, we can. We don't think that.
Let's go back. Let's go back. So let's talk about BTR, okay? Yeah. Because this is all the rage. I think it's amazing that you chose to do it. Where are you? First of all, why did you choose it? How was it to get through planning and zoning, to find the property? Did you buy the property outright? Tell us a little bit about how that worked for you. I'm very curious.
Sure. Well, I've had experience over the years doing it on a smaller scale. It's the same process if you're doing one house or 2 or 3 houses, subdividing it, or doing 90 like the one I'm working on now. It's the same planning commission. You still go through the city, do the engineering. It's all the same steps, just more units. So it was just a natural progression from doing 3 or 4 at a time to 8, and then now to 90 plus units. The track, I did find it on my own and purchased it myself. everything I've done so far, except for the large multifamily, was community banks. You know,
Okay.
they know me here. I've been using them for years and kind of just laid out what I want to do. I own some property across the street where I'd already built a couple of houses. I was like, you know, they have this, you know, large tract across the way, want to buy it. So they say, yeah, we could do that. So, you know, and
So let's talk about that, because obviously I'm a lender and people bring me opportunities like this. A relationship with a community bank when you're going into a project like this is super helpful. So your relationship, being that you were close by, this is an asset that's close by where you live. Can you tell us about that? Is that right?
It's 10 from where I live.
Okay, so that using community banks, guys, yeah, you want to go to Louisiana and you want to buy there, but you live in Iowa, that's not going to work. You do need to have a presence by that property within the community. So I think that's excellent. Can you share with us, how did that work when you found the property? How did you finance it? Because this comes up a lot. What I find a lot of people want to do is buy the property with hard money, and then they want to build the plans because they want to make sure that they have the property and it gets approved. They don't want to lose the property. We do a lot of hard money loans, or we see a lot of hard money loans for the property itself. And then they go and try and find, let's call it construction loans, bridge loans, something like that. Can you tell us how that was for you on the property itself, and then how did you do that whole process through planning and zoning?
Yeah, first I locked it up. I didn't purchase it. I just had it under contract, and I had an extended contract, and it had some language in there allowing me to get certain approvals or pre-approvals before proceeding with a closing on and purchasing it. So we did that. I had some meetings with the planning commission, make sure that, you know, the track would work, met with the surveyors and engineers. And then at that point we did buy it, you know, with that community bank. So for, you know, larger tracts, and as we move forward into other markets, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to option. We probably won't do purchase agreements. It'll probably be an actual option where we option it for 1 year, pay them a X amount, a certain percentage of the property. And that way we tie it up without actually acquiring the whole property until we know that it's going to work.
Excellent. Did you have to put money down with the community banker to lock it up, the property itself?
Not this one. No, I was just able to do just escrow deposit with the seller.
Okay. And what was the time frame that it took you from the time that you identified the property, got involved with the community bank, got through planning and zoning, to completing the loan committee and approval? What was that time frame for you?
About 6 months.
6 months. So those of you who are looking to get into building, this is a great option. Community banks and credit unions have these types of offerings. When you look at on a larger scale, we do HUD, and HUD is a government. It is non-recourse. Community bank is not going to be, it's going to be recourse, not non-recourse, yeah. And this process for HUD can take, people will say 6 months. I say 9 to 12 months and closer to the 12 months. But we're talking about 35 to 40 years of financing. And if you look at today's rates, 2.9 for 40 years, you hold on to it, you sell it as an assumable loan. This is locking up some pretty incredible financing. So can you tell us a little bit, Derek, about the financing from the commercial bank? How long is it? How long are your terms? This is a big deal. This is a big deal from a finance side, you guys.
This one is a 20-year, and that's a construction loan. It's at, I think, 4.5% during the construction term.
Okay.
And it's a 20-year with a 5-year balloon, so it's a little more aggressive, you know, than agency debt. And the HUD option you're talking about is definitely attractive, but it's really time consuming, you know. So as we move forward, it's something we want to do, but we want to have 2 or 3 options that we're working on to where we're not counting on that one coming through, because it's definitely a lot of red tape. But when you get to the finish line, you know, it's worth it.
It really it is. So looking at that 4.5, that's during the construction, and then the construction time is what, 18 months, 24 months, or are you able to lock that in at 4.5 for 5 years?
It's locked for 5 years.
Okay, but it's amortized over 20 years.
Yeah.
So again, thinking about HUD or thinking about how agency works, it's a 30-year or it's 35 or 40 on HUD. So you can see his price, his monthly payment is going to be considerably higher, not only because of the interest rate. My interest rate's going to be right around 3. His is 4.5. So, right there is going to be more expensive, but he's amortizing it only over 20 years. So it's going to affect how he takes down this, the speculation of this property. So can you take us through how do you underwrite this deal? Are you looking, are you targeting a certain price per door? Tell us a little bit about how you got to that number and what your number is and what you see around the area for single family, I guess, would be your competition, or as well as multifamily would be your competition as well. So how do you do that?
Yeah, well, this one, again, was really easy for me because I live here and I built a few houses last year across the street. So I knew exactly what I could get per door. So, they get $1,500 per door. Okay. So, and at my cost, being the developer and the general contractor, my numbers, they cash flow pretty well for me. Yeah. Because if you're trying to do it without being licensed, and you have more costs, you're going to have to pay a general contractor's fee, and then if you buy it from a realtor, and there's all kinds of things that keep on adding up these costs. If you're buying turnkey, even if you're buying a newly built for rent unit, so those all drive it up. That's why I'm able to do it with the more expensive financing, because I'm building it myself. So
that's going to be your monthly rent is $1,500. Mm-hmm. What are you coming in per door from manufacturing? What's the cost per door? Can you share with us?
For the vertical cost?
Yeah.
Yeah, my vertical costs are about $80,000.
80 a door. Mm-hmm. And what are the competition? Now remember, everybody, Derek is pretty special here because he's doing it all himself. If it were, like you say, it's going to be considered retail, right? I mean, you can consider it retail because actually you're wholesale and going about it how many of us would do it. What would the cost be? What would people be paying for that cost?
If someone was buying or came to me wanting one built, it would cost them between $120 and $130.
Look at that. Amazing. So now what would it cost to, and if you're doing $1,500 a door, that's for renting it. Mm-hmm. What is break even for you per door? Anything?
For this subdivision, we're going to be break even at, I think, 69% occupancy. Okay,
69% occupancy. And so at that point, I mean, you could be at $700, $800 a door, right? Maybe $900 a door. Amazing. That is all profitability of this asset. So really amazing. So talk to me about when you're looking at putting these together, what are the strong points that you're putting into the asset? What is important? Are you still looking at your kitchens and baths, right? But what's the key to making these successful?
Well, we're going after folks that are either moving out of traditional apartment units, but we're also trying to capture people that are possibly selling their home to downsize. Ours are nicer upscale units. They have stained concrete. They have the granite. They have stainless appliances. But they're very small and they're simple. We repeat, the same floor pans over and over. We use the same material, same colors. But we design them in such a way to where they feel larger. They have a vaulted ceiling in the master. They have a large vault in the living area. We put in, the nicer fixtures. We have some shiplap in there, stuff like that. So stuff that they see on TV that, will make them fall in, the first time they walk in, they say they want it. So, and that's what happened. We had those rented out before we had them built. So is your goal to hold on to these?
So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to these? So is your goal to hold on to th as a multifamily and hold on to them for 6, 7, 10 years and then sell the whole community off? Or is this something that you're doing quick turn and find a buyer either individually or as a community? Tell us about that.
We're going to sell them off as a community. We think the valuation will be higher, especially in our market here. They will be individually entitled lots, so we could set up an HOA and sell them off individually if we needed to. But we definitely think the valuation will be higher as a multifamily in one unit.
That's fabulous. Just amazing opportunity. So you talk about the strategy. How did you decide where you are going to put these? Tell us a little bit about why this is a special place.
Well, it being my hometown and building them all around, I had a pretty good feel for this one. It's pretty close to, some of the larger roads in town, and there's a lot of new construction neighborhoods, regular single family going up. And with the rents, I knew I could pull in from the ones I've had a few miles away. And then the newer ones I put across the street, I was comfortable with this. As we move forward into new markets, we have a system that, my partner, he's putting together. He's done that for years. That he's done site selection for industrial and neighborhood development. So just using normal demographics, we are looking at multifamily and single family both together. And also, we're looking at the zoning and the local governments, because some areas it's not worth trying. But we definitely see we're going to be doing more in the secondary and tertiary markets. We think we'll do better there and steer clear of, some of the hotter spots, because, where I am, we're definitely a secondary or tertiary market, and it's working out fine for us.
Being that you're in a tertiary market, you are working with a community bank. So when I think of tertiary market, I think of 70% LTV, from a lender standpoint. What was your experience from your commercial bank, your community bank? What did you get on that?
Yeah, 75.
75. So see, sometimes this works out better to be with with the community bank. So that's great. All right. You did make a mention about the fund, and we had an attorney, Meryl Calliser was here months back and talked to us about a fund. Andy McMullen does a fund. There are other people that are getting into funds. So I want to kind of shift and have you talk about why you're doing a fund. What were the things that you're looking that are important to you when you're putting this contract together? The timeline, what your returns are, how the whole package works. If you could share with us some of the details of that. Sure.
Yeah, we decided on the fund model just because the nature of the beast with development is it's a longer term timetable. When you buy a multifamily, you find it, you go out and you're excited, and you go out and you do your fundraising, and it's a pretty fast acquisition. Whereas us, it's just raw land, and we don't even know if we could do the project. So
very speculative.
If we were trying to do an individual syndication, there might be a lot of stop and start. So under a fund, we could go out and select multiple sites and try to move all those forward at the same time. If one hits a brick wall or it gets bogged down, we still have the other irons in the fire that we could work on. So that's the main reason for this, the fund design, just so we have more scale in working on different spots at the same time. We plan on doing 2 or 3 in the market, so we have more economies of scale with the subcontractors and suppliers. And we think we could do different things. One of the communities, if we're doing 3 of them in a market, we probably do one that's geared more towards retirement. We just put like some nursing offices and stuff in the front and things of that nature. So it won't really be a traditional retirement community, but they could have their own home and still just drive up to the front. So they'll feel a little more independent. So if we're doing 2 or 3 in a market at a time, we have those economies of scale, but we could also diversify the product a little bit too, based on where we're located.
So will you be managing these properties, or will you have a third-party property management manage these?
No, we're going to have third-party management. Yeah.
Okay. And so are you looking at them as a single family management company? How do you sell that to the management company? And here's why. Because remember, from a lender standpoint, we're going to want to see a property manager who knows how to manage properties in like kind. So when we look at opportunities like this, that it looks like it's single family, it's actually multifamily. So we would want to make sure that the property manager has the same kind of scale as these guys do. So tell me, how did your community bank have any regulations or requirements for you?
No, community bank does not. It was all just about me. I went in there, shook their hand, and they actually drove out to the property with me. So that's definitely, kind of a good old boy system, with the community banks once you get to know them. But yeah, we definitely know, when we go into other markets and we're dealing with that we're going to bring on board, large, multifamily management to handle the asset side and also the investor relations side, because I'm a developer, and my partner, he's the site acquisition guy. So we're going to leave that to someone who's used to dealing with that side of it.
Yeah. So and you're going to have front and rear backyards. So then you'll have a landscaping company manage all of that, I suppose.
Yeah, we don't do individual fencing. We keep they have side yards and backyards, but we go and keep all that cut, because you don't want to have some that you can't get into them and have those type of issues. So yeah, we mow the whole thing. We do have like a little dog park area that's fenced in and whatnot, but yeah, we don't want to have to the lawn care guys going through all fences, and it was just more things to get damaged. So we maintain that.
It's such a great model. I mean, you have pools and dog parks and walking and areas, and you've got a workout space, I think, and you've got a community room where people can meet for parties. I mean, it's a great model, just terrific. So when somebody is interested in the fund, now this fund is specifically for this one project, or can they buy in for the other future projects? How does that work?
It's not for the one project. It's for, it's a 10-year cycle on the fund. Okay. It would be all the projects that we do within the site life cycle. Our goal, okay, it depends on how much we raise, but if we are fully capitalized, we would probably end up in the 3,000 to 5,000 units at the end of 10 years. But it depends on how much we raise. Okay. We're just now starting to do our capital commitments, and probably won't do a capital call until Q2 is what I would imagine, something like that.
So if you have an investor, I know that we need to have a substantive relationship. So it's not that you're selling this idea to our network here, but if someone were wanting to invest in a fund like yours, what would a return be? What would it look like?
Well, mine is a 506C, so
okay,
that makes it a little easier on that side of it. But the IRR, is about 23%, and the equity multiple is right around 3.
Excellent, and that's a 10-year hold.
10-year hold. We also have Class A shares that are debt only, and those pay either 9 or 10%, and those are just 3 years.
Okay, that's a pref.
A little less risk, a shorter timetable, and we offer that.
Amazing. So what I want to make sure that everybody understands, that's a 9% pref for 3 years. Is that correct? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So those are some great numbers. Where do you see yourself in 5 years and in 10 years? Where are we going to see Derek in 5 years?
Well, I mean, with this fund, we plan on doing these in Texas and all the way, all across the Southeast. And hopefully we'll have a lot of success with this fund where we, open up a second, fund, in a couple of years. So we'll have more scale. Obviously, that depends a lot of what happens, with the economy in general and everything. But we think this space is de-risked a lot when compared to, speculative building, because we have a lot of options. Yeah. We have multiple outs, if you will, as far as selling it off individually or as in a multifamily property. So, we like the space and think the margins that we're able to produce, being the land acquisition, the developer, getting it all the way through entitlement, and then the vertical construction, and then stabilizing it, it just creates a lot of value for the fund.
It is truly amazing. I'm just so impressed. I can't believe it. All right, so let's go through the list of questions, because I've got quite a few of them here. Do you do owned rent to own, including straight rental? It's just straight rental.
These are straight rental. I have
Yeah.
other properties, I do have rental units that sometimes I do rent to own. They never actually end up owning them though, but I have done a few leases that way. But no, under the fund, this is all just regular leasing. Yeah.
Yeah. So after the 5 years, I'm very curious. How do we get what's the next step for lending? Are you going to take a look at HUD at that time, because you've got a huge long runway, or are you going to go back to community bank?
Yeah, once they're stabilized, we would definitely, the agency debt, and I think the products are getting better. They're getting more familiar with what this is, because a few years ago, there was no way. It was brand new, but now they're starting to understand the model better. So we would definitely refinance into regular agency debt once it's stabilized. Yeah,
it's an amazing model. I'm really excited about it, and we're going to see a lot more of this. So you're really an innovator in so many ways. Do you have a price per square foot for pre-construction and also construction only? So
you're talking about horizontal costs and vertical costs, I guess is what they're asking.
Freddie, can you unmute yourself and see if that's...
Yeah, basically both of those costs. Yeah, or if you have them separated, or just one for you.
It's obviously going to be, just on this one site that I'm doing now, because obviously land costs, that's a huge input in the different markets. But for this one, it's about 20%. Was the horizontal cost on this one?
Excellent. Can you 1% rule it? So anything over 800 a month is pretty freaking spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, the 1% rule. Yeah, I used to use that too.
Yeah. Let's see. So Andy wants to know, is there a preferred return for the B shares?
6%, yes.
Oh, 6%. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's see. Preferred for B shares. Okay, you got that. Let me see. Is there any other questions? If you know of anyone who would like to invest in assets. Okay. Is there anybody? Let's open this up, you guys. You're free to move about the cabin. Look at the gallery. Is there anybody who has questions? Because I think if you haven't seen this or heard this, this is where multifamily is going for many of the new investors, because you're chasing after 1970s, 1968 assets where you have very little room to make a mistake. Andy, what do you have?
Yeah, one, I think you should share your deck with as many people on here, because it's so impressive. And you're right, Julie, this is where it's going. We are trying to figure out a way to insert ourselves to work with Derek. He's obviously super impressive. So Derek, we've talked a little bit about the long-term plan. What's kind of the long-term plan? So are investors out of the deal in 10 years, 5 years? How does it work?
It depends on if we sell it. Sorry, Andy, if we sell it to a third party, or if I refinance it into an entity outside of the fund, which is actually my first choice. Again, I said I have affinity for keeping real estate. That's really what I like to do. So my first choice would be to stabilize it and purchase it under an entity outside of the fund, do a capital event for our investors, but still keep them in that property. It'll be at a smaller percentage, but that'll be forever, as long as it's owned by me or an affiliate. So that's really like the legacy model, I guess you would call that.
The buy and die. I like it.
Yeah. And whatever we're giving in the legacy, those distributions, we're also going to match it to charity. We're going to pick 2 or 3 in that community. So I see a pretty big impact. If we're doing 10 or 20 subdivisions in across the Southeast, we could pick some charities and really make an impact. 20 years, 30 years. I'm pretty young, so hopefully I'll still be kicking for a while. We could do that.
So Derek, what are the typical sizes? Are they all the same? 2-bedroom, 1 bath, 2-bedroom, 2 bath? What's the breakdown on those? And how big are they?
Sure. These are 1,200 square foot. 3-bedroom, 2 baths. That will change based on the market where we go in the future, but this particular one, they're all 3-2s. And we have upgrades. You know, they don't have carports, but if they want a carport, you know, we could put one on and charge extra for that. And the same with a storage unit in the back. So we have a few add-ons, you know.
That's fabulous. Who else has a question? Anybody else? Yes, Carrie Love.
He mentioned that, Derek, you mentioned that your cost per house or per unit was about $80,000. Does that include your infrastructure for the roads, utilities, the pool, the clubhouse, etc.?
No, that's just vertical on the houses.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so if you included that cost with and divided it out by the number of houses, what is your cost per unit then?
The cost per unit overall with all the extra infrastructure and common areas is right at 100.
Okay.
And
Land,
everybody else
roads,
is at 130, you said, correct?
yeah, lands, roads, they have automatic gates, all that. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Hey, Julianne.
Great question. Hold on. Tina has a question.
Oh, are you actually designing these all yourself, or, you know, I guess that's kind of the question. Are you designing, since you said it's from the ground up, are you the actual architect, or do you have somebody help you come up with these nice floor plans that you then repeat?
These I did. I have a program that I designed them myself. I won't always do that, but I've been doing them in smaller batches over the years and come up with something that's worked well for me in this market. So these particular ones, I did design them. Yeah.
Fabulous. Andy, did you have a question?
No, Bruce.
Okay.
I did.
Who else? Oh, Bruce.
Well,
Okay.
Actually, I just wanted to make a comment. I'm in Lakewood Ranch, Florida area, and we just had one of these communities open in Lakewood Ranch, 230 residences. 102 of them are 1-bedroom and 51 duplex, and then 128 standalone 2-bedrooms that are about 1,000 square foot.
Yeah.
So it's a great concept.
Great concept. I can't stop saying that. Does anybody else have a question? Yes,
Another
Tina.
question. So based on that, does it sound like sometimes you have them connected? Because then, as Bruce was saying, if some of them were standalone, do you have them connected? Do you do them only as single story, or do them as 2-story, or?
Sure. You have the option. That would be market specific, whatever is more popular in that sub market. I mean, you could do them row houses, like townhouses. It would be the same concept. You could easily do that, or do 2 of them attached. So it's really market specific, what they're really going after and accepting in that market.
Claire has a question. Claire.
For your market that you're building in right now, this first development, what building code, the IBC code, are you building to in that market?
I'd have to pull it up. I don't recall what it is. I've been doing it so long here. I'm not sure what variation of the IBC or IRC it is.
Okay. Is it like the newer energy code?
No. I mean,
so okay.
Definitely not like the level of California or something like that. Which new energy codes in particular?
Well, I'm in the Midwest, and we used to have the 1970s walls that were 2x4s, and the new building codes basically make us go to 2x6 plus outside insulation. So I'm asking, and not all the, right, of course you're in Louisiana, so I mean, you have wind codes, but my question really is, you know, there's a lot of things that come with those codes in addition to the energy code. There's some, you know, some fire protection, there's just a lot of things, electrical code changes that ride along with each IBC change. So, you know, some of our building sites, we build, are lagging. They haven't adopted the latest code for, you know, on purpose in their town. They're still back in like 2006, maybe some of them, and 11, you know, there's different. So I'm just wondering if you're in one of those kind of markets where you don't have the latest requirements. It had decide that.
Yeah, it has changed over the years. I've been a contractor here about 7 years, so it's changed. I'd have to check. That's a good question. I don't know exactly what year they're
I'm
on.
just curious because it could be
But that is
a
one
very
of the,
big.
right. And that's one of our metrics when we're looking at the submarkets we're going into, because it's a huge variation. So
Big cost savings.
yeah, and that's why I don't do ground up, 3-story, apartment complexes, because the commercial codes, it's a nightmare even here. So
And it takes forever. So people know how to get single families through the system. It is incredibly robust opportunity, you guys, and really want to encourage you to think about this. But you know what, Derek, how would somebody get a hold of you if they wanted to have a conversation and discuss this opportunity with you, whether it's to talk to you about the fund or to get more information on how they could partner with you potentially, on deals where they find a property, a piece of land that might, you insert you. I mean, you are such a resource. How can we find you? How do we get a hold of you?
Sure, I put my information in there, and it has my cell phone, and I'm on LinkedIn. I mean, search my last name. There's nobody else with it, so I'll pop up pretty easily. And I'm looking forward to talking with anybody about that.
Well, I'm just so excited, as you can tell. I really thank you for joining us. I snagged you from another meetup, so you're pretty special in what you're doing, and I'm excited to watch you grow, and maybe we'll have to invest as well. And of course, if you guys want to, Derek would take you through all those numbers. He has a great deck, and we can push that over to you if you're interested. So thank you, Derek. We appreciate you, and we'll look forward to seeing you be successful in this market. So.